Coming up on the HR Big Meet podcast.
It's a quote that I have on the screensaver on my laptop.
Okay.
Life shrinks or expands according to one's courage.
Yes.
And that's the thing, you don't feel ready sometimes to make these choices. You might not feel ready to hand in your notice. You might not feel ready to start a business or go for a new role. But if you can take the action before you feel ready, your confidence starts to grow through the actions that you take.
Welcome to the HR Big Meet podcast. This is the place where we amplify the voices of women in HR and have honest conversations about what it really means to work in this profession so that nobody has to internalise the idea that they are the problem. We are all about you having sustainable impact without compromise. So expect real stories, just a smattering of swear words, a few uncomfortable truths, and everything that you hope for something that is proudly not like normal HR. Are you ready to be a human's resource? Great, let's jump right in. This week on the HR Big Meet podcast, I am joined by leadership development specialist, coach and facilitator, the amazing Katy Walton. Katy helps organisations close the gap between the leaders they have now and the leaders they need, with a particular focus on emotional intelligence, communication, collaboration and influence. In our conversation, we talk about what happens when life becomes, forgive me for the pronunciation, Métro, Boulot, Dodo. She can say it much better. Essentially, commute, work, sleep, repeat. How easy it is to lose yourself in the mechanics of work, and why asking yourself, what if, can completely change the direction of your life and career. We also explore confidence, influence, fear, possibility, and the importance of spaces where HR professionals can stop pretending for 5 minutes and just be human. Oh, Katy, thank you so much for joining me and being a guest on the first season of the HR Big Meet podcast. And there's something about this for you because you like being the first, because you were one of the first people to come onto the HR Big Meet stage as well at the very first event. So it's going to be a great conversation catching up, like reflecting on that event and also what's happened since, both for you and for the event and the HR Big Meet. And oh my God, how many times am I going to say HR Big Meet? I don't know. But thank you for being here and once again being willing to share your wisdom, I'm sure. Although I didn't tell you that's what I was going to ask you to do.
You didn't? No. I'm not sure. I might not have any wisdom left. I might be wisdomed out.
I don't believe that. I believe that you have infinitely more, even from when you first came to the stage. So it's been 3 years.
I know. 3 years. I cannot believe how quickly it's gone. 3 years.
It's flown by. And we're obviously in, both of us, different positions to where we were at that time. So do you remember HR Big Meet, first one ever?
Oh my God, of course I remember it. How could I not? How could I forget it? It was like, what struck me at the time was just how completely different it was from any other, I'm not even going to call it HR conference because it is so not a conference, but the feel and the vibe in the room that you created right from the start. I've still got this vision in my head of you kind of bounding towards the stage with the music on and just the glitter ball, and it was just so unique and so different, and it's just etched on my memory forever.
I was so nervous. I remember like walking up and being like, oh, and thinking, oh, this is really wanky. just be like, oh God, this is too American. And I think at that point I was like, look, just be more British, be more cool.
Do you know what? That did not come across at all. And I can't remember exactly what you said, but when you were on stage, but something about that's the first time that HR I've ever had a round of applause walking in the room. And I just thought, you have nailed the opening, absolutely nailed it. And what a day it was. It was incredible.
It was an incredible day. I remember feeling really amazing afterwards, and largely in part to like you and the other speakers that came on stage, like being willing to be really open and be really vulnerable from stage, because that was what I wanted to create in the event and in the work that I've done since, is just to create spaces where we can actually talk about the stuff that's really happening without having to pretend, without having to be like, oh, I'm a insert job title here. It's just a space really to be ourselves, and that's what I hope these conversations on these
Yeah.
podcasts are as well. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. But and I'm now, as I'm talking, I remember that wasn't the first time actually that we kind of did something together, because we did the where the fuck is my oxygen mask together
We
as
did.
well, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Was it actually during lockdown, or you know, there were so many iterations of lockdown, weren't there? I
right. I
can't
think
remember whether it was in between or not.
it was
Don't
the
know.
year before the big meet, because
Yeah,
the event, the where the fuck is my oxygen mask event, was the catalyst for me starting the HR club in the first place, because I
yeah.
realised we had such good feedback, didn't we, of
We did. Yeah,
people kind of so yeah, as a background, I suppose, we ran a group of us together, ran an event called Where the Fuck is My Oxygen Mask, which was designed for people in HR to talk specifically around our well-being. And we had a huge response, didn't we? We had like 600 people register for that, to
yeah.
take part in that. So that was really the thing that kind of, do you remember what you talked about on that event?
Um, oh, I'd be lying if I said that I could remember exactly, but I'm guessing it was something about influence, about building your personal influence.
Yes, because that is definitely what you're good for, isn't it? You're, like, that's one of your things that you kind
It's
of,
one of my things.
it's one of
Yeah,
your things, your expertise. So, okay, so let's start sharing some of that infinite wisdom of yours then, because we were just chatting beforehand, and you were saying, well, I looked at the slides and I don't remember really what I talked about.
yeah,
But there were two things that stood out for me from your talk from year one
yeah.
at the event, which I think probably still has relevance, but maybe there's more to add to it now, which was all I can remember is Metro, Boulot, Dulo, or something. Maybe that's not.
Métro, Boulot, Dodo.
There you go. So that one,
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was. So I would love to
I'll
revisit that.
explain. Yeah, yeah. Uh,
And also the what if,
and the what
which was
if.
I think the thing of your whole talk.
It
So
was, yeah.
where do you want to
Yeah,
start
well,
with that?
the whole idea behind what if was just two words that could completely change your life. And it's asking
Yes.
yourself those what if questions in various ways to help you kickstart your thinking about what do you really want out of life, and then flipping your fears if they're holding you back, and also starting to think about the action that you could take. But I'll come back to the Métro Boulot Dodo. So the story, well, first of all, an explanation of what it is. It's French slang, which just stands, Métro is underground system. So that's your commute to work. Boulot is slang for work or job, and Dodo is slang for sleep. So if you think about it, it's kind of commute, work, sleep. And that's what happens when you just get caught up in the day to day and you're not really thinking about life outside of just the whole mechanics of I get up, I go to work, I come home, and I go to sleep. And my thing was I realized that I was caught up in that Metro Boulot Dodo, and what I really wanted from my life was to travel when I was young. And yeah, so it was really about thinking, well, what do you really want from life? Get curious, be like a kid. Have some of this childlike curiosity. What if I did quit my job? What if I did go traveling? What if I had an amazing adventure? And that kind of, what does it do? It kind of builds up your enthusiasm for it, your passion for it. As soon as you start getting curious about what you really want from your life and what you want to do, it starts giving you the energy for it, and you can start seeing the options opening up for you. So, yeah, that was the first bit of the what if. And the second point that what if comes in is starting to flip your fears. So, I don't know about you. Well, I think this is true for most people. There's always these hidden fears and insecurities and doubts that creep in. So, the second part of what if is then thinking, well, what if that's not true? What if the story that I'm telling myself isn't reality? You
Yeah.
know, looking at it from a different perspective. So if you're telling yourself, I'm not good enough, what if I fail? Flip it around. Well, what if I am good enough? And then start to look for the evidence to back it up.
Yes, I love that. And the definition of the, I'm not going to try and be French again.
Yeah. Métro boulot dodo.
You say it so well.
Merci.
Do you speak French? You must speak French.
I do, but don't challenge me on it. I did French at A level, and I spent 6 years working out in France. I was pretty fluent at the time, and then as with everything, time kind of you lose your edge, you lose that fluency, but I can speak it a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not a great challenger on that. Like, I'm not going to challenge you in your French. But that I think a lot of women that I work with are kind of in that stage of kind of just going to work,
Yeah,
particularly in the market at the moment, like the recruitment market, the HR market of getting jobs. People, it's almost like, sticking where we're at because at least I've got a job and at least I'm working.
yeah,
But that has
exactly.
like huge potentially that has a huge impact on people, like doing something that doesn't feel purposeful, doesn't feel meaningful, doesn't kind of like light you up. And the reframe of kind of normally we're focusing on the what ifs, what could go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Focusing on what could go right instead is a really neat thing to like start trying to do. And I can't remember from your talk, but did you describe your moment of doing that, of your like what
I
if
did.
moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, it was that realization. I talked about a wonderful lady called Joyce who I sat next to. So I was working in life insurance, stapling life insurance policies. And it was so long ago, you could smoke in the office, right? And I can remember all these big crystal ashtrays.
So
That's how
great.
long ago it was. And I remember on the first day, I sat down next to Joyce and she said, "Oh, what do you want to do in your life?" And I said, "I want to go traveling. I want to explore." And she said, "Oh, good luck with that." She said, "I had all those dreams as well, but then I just got into the job and here I am 45 years later." And I just remember in that moment thinking, I can't do that. I can't do that because for me, the desire to go and do something, to see the world, to have fun, to enjoy myself, it was so big. I just felt the weight of it. So I made a decision there and then. I'll have a year where I save up enough money to be able to do what it is that I want to do, and I will not stay a second longer. And it's easy to make those kind of decisions when you're younger, I think, because you don't have a mortgage to pay, I didn't have kids, so there aren't any of those restrictions that you were just talking about. If people feel stuck in their job right now because of the market and the fear that's holding them back, like how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to put food on the table? I completely understand it. So I'm not encouraging people just to go, hang on a minute, I'm not happy here. What if I did something that I really love to do and forget about the responsibilities? But maybe think, well, what else is there that might bring me joy if I have to stay here financially? What else could I do? Could I learn to tango or foxtrot, or could I take up pastel water painting or whatever? There could be something else that could top up your cup as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really important point. Again, based on my experience of the women that I work, and my own experience, like our work becomes so much of our identity
Yeah.
and we give so much to it because it's important to us because we want to succeed and we want to achieve in our roles, and then our work becomes the thing that we, whether by default or because we're just not doing anything different, our work becomes the place that we look for everything to fulfill
Mm,
us and to have meaning for us. And there's something to be said almost for if you are in that position where you have responsibilities and you can't just walk away, of almost like actively deciding, well, I'm going to give less energy to this work and I'm going to go somewhere else, like to look for the things that are meaningful and fulfill me. Because it is different when you haven't got the responsibilities and the
yeah.
mortgage and all that kind of stuff. But it's not impossible, which it can
No.
feel sometimes.
Exactly. And that's the other part of what if is just questioning yourself. If you're telling yourself the market is impossible right now, is that, well, what if
Mm.
that's not true? What if I'm just paying attention to what I see most often on LinkedIn or what I hear my friends talking about? Where's the evidence that's different to that? Because there are still people being hired, there are still opportunities. Yes, they're harder, but then if we think, well, what about the action that I could take? And isn't it
Yeah.
more empowering, more liberating to think, well, what could I do? So what could you do? You could talk to people, you could build your network, you could have conversations with recruiters, you could take a course or a program or get some coaching that could really support you. There are so many actions that you can take. And I think once you then start to see the positive actions happening as a result of something that you've actually done, your confidence starts to grow. I
Yeah.
think there's nothing worse than being in that place where you're thinking, I have no options.
Yes.
It's
Totally.
it's so disempowering to think there is no way out. This is my lot for the rest of my life or the next 2 or 3 years. And that's when it can start to spiral downward for us when we're not thinking about our options, our opportunities, the actions that we can take. And it kind of, I think that from memory, the last slide that I had up was a quote, and I'm going to do myself in here because, having said about speaking French, the quote is from Anais Nin. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but it's a quote that I have on the screensaver on my laptop.
Okay.
Life shrinks or expands according to one's courage.
Yes.
And that's the thing, you don't feel ready sometimes to make these choices. You might not feel ready to hand in your notice. You might not feel ready to start a business or go for a new role. But if you can take the action before you feel ready, your confidence starts to grow through the actions that you take. And knowing that you are taking some positive action helps then to give you that motivation to carry on.
Yeah, you're so right. That feeling of like being out, having no control, having no options, of just being stuck, that can
Yeah,
be so disempowering, and it's almost like a loop then of, well, I can't take action, so, and then if I do take action, there's all these things that could go wrong, and then because you're not taking the action, you're almost like beating yourself up because, well, I can't take the actions, and those small steps towards something,
yes.
I totally advocate for that. Of just the confidence doesn't come. You don't sit there and the confidence lands in your lap. The confidence comes from doing the things of believing that you're going to be okay, whatever the outcome. I'm going to say that a lot on this podcast. I can
Yeah,
tell because that's
yeah, yeah.
um, it absolutely is those kind of small steps that build you. You make a decision, I think, of what you really want for yourself, and then you do something about it, and that has huge impact. And we're both testament to that, I suppose, because we're both building our
Yeah.
businesses and building the life we want. You've just shown me a book that is Secret Squirrel. I don't even know if I meant to say that, but
Well,
Katie's just like written a book and is now going to be like sharing that. There's only 200 copies, so none of us are going to get to see it.
yeah, well, I'm not even sure if I'm going to get. Of course, I'm going to give you one, Emma. Of course, I'm going to send one to you. But
Amazing.
yeah, it's kind of coming back to thinking 3 years ago about this talk. It's really reminded me of how important it is to take action, even when you don't think you're ready.
Yeah.
So going back, I think I did talk about this on the stage, but I was talking about the fact I actually started my business. I left an employed job, so I wasn't sacked, I wasn't made redundant. There was kind of no push for me to go. It was purely a matter of me thinking, what do I want the rest of my life to look like? And I'd realised that as I'd been promoted, it was taking me further away from the work that I really loved to do. And I was spending time doing things like putting board packs together and budget planning and strategizing, that kind of thing, which is all well and good, but it's not the facilitation, it's not the work with teams, it's not developing people that I love to do. So yeah, at the end of the first COVID, well, no, it was during the first COVID lockdown, I put in my 3 months notice, and everybody I spoke to said, you are crazy. Why are you doing this? Nobody knows what's going to happen to the economy. Nobody knows what's going to happen. You've got no security. I had no savings at the time, but I was backing myself because I thought I didn't want to get to retirement thinking I didn't do everything that I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I wanted more freedom. I wanted autonomy. I wanted to do the things that I felt were the right things to do for people. Um, yeah, and I just didn't have enough of that where I was. So I backed myself. I did it. I took the leap like you did. And it is scary, isn't it? I
Yeah.
didn't feel ready. I didn't feel
No.
ready. I was
Well,
looking.
I
Carry
say
on.
didn't feel ready. I had like naive optimism.
Yeah,
I believe. I think you either have, yeah. And mine was just like, well, now I'm ready to start a business, so people will flock to me and want to work with me. That
which
was
obviously they
so
do.
naive optimism. Well, now they do, but it takes its time. But so that's clearly been a thread for you. Like you said, you talked about when you were in that insurance company stapling policies that you didn't want to be doing that, and then so that's clearly you've clearly had that thread of like of backing yourself and taking the action to pursue what feels like right to you. Where do you think that came from?
Oh, that is such a good question.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I don't know. I don't know because I certainly don't ever feel like I was super confident when I was growing up. I didn't feel confident for a long time in my career. There was this really weird paradox, right? So I was getting great results at work. I constantly had people saying, "Oh, you should go for this promotion," or, "We think you're ready for this next promotion. We want you to apply for this." And I was constantly going, "No, I'm not good enough. No, no." I just genuinely didn't see what other people saw. So, and it feels really strange, but the more people were telling me, "You're doing really great work, you're exceeding our expectations," all the rest of it, the more they were telling me, the more I felt pressure to try and live up to that. And it led to a huge amount of kind of overwork, perfectionism, I think, because then I'm thinking, right, if you all see me like this, what happens if I don't meet it? So I worked and pushed myself harder and harder. And the more that I did that and the more praise and recognition I got, the less I felt valuable. So it was so strange. And I only got to the bottom of unpicking it through two things. One is through coach training, and you'll hear so many people who've been through coach training go, "Oh my God, it was life changing. I learned so much
Yeah.
about myself." Yeah, that's true for me as well. I genuinely did. And second of all, I had a mentor, brilliant woman called Amanda, who was incredibly skilled, knowledgeable, experienced, and yeah, she just kind of told me a few home truths, got me to put my big girl pants on, that's what she said, and sort my shit out. And so I did.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. But there was
That's
something
my
about,
style of coaching.
yeah, it was so powerful, that conversation. I think more than anything else, Amanda had had very big global positions before, and the fact that she gave up her time to spend with me, and just, I'm hugely grateful. I've always been hugely grateful to her for that. But I think those two things in combination were a real catalyst for me. And I'm like, oh, perhaps I can actually do this. And perhaps I am worthwhile. And perhaps I can, I do know what I'm talking about. It took a long time to see that, though.
I love that. But you still did it. You gave your example of when you were younger and backing yourself. So it's still going out there and doing that action, which is amazing. So obviously it's been 3 years since you first took to the
Yeah.
HR Big Meet stage, and that event and the work that I do is really all about amplifying the voices of women in HR, because too many of us feel unheard and like our voices don't matter, and then we stop speaking up and we lose our confidence. So I'm on a mission, a bit of a mission to solve that. And I hope you won't mind me saying, but speaking on stage is something that, even though you facilitate in front of people, speaking on stage feels really different to you.
Oh, God, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
And
feel,
so, go on.
carry on.
No, go.
I was going to say, I feel really comfortable standing in front of a room of people, but there's something about being on stage that just, oh my God, I think probably because when I'm working with teams and groups, I don't ever have stuff really tightly scripted, because I like picking up on what's needed in the moment. This is going to sound really bizarre, right? But I pick up on the dynamics, people's expressions, how they're responding to stuff, their questions. And so when I'm training, facilitating, team coaching, whatever the work is that I do, I'm doing it with people. Whereas when you're up on stage, you've got a set amount of time. And so you have to be pretty consistent to those timings. Otherwise, it all go, you'd be dragging me off the stage otherwise. But you have to be consistent with the timings. And so it's much more about giving information to people than working with people. So it's a very different discipline, really
Yes.
different. And I've challenged myself a couple of times to go on a couple of different stages. And both times it's been exactly the same. And I think, what the heck am I doing? Because it's a very different skill set and it's not a natural one for me.
And so, and you did it, and you did it, and you shared your story, and you used your voice, and even when it didn't feel comfortable to you. And
Yeah,
I remember now you've shared that quote at the end of it. So many people took a picture of that quote and shared
yeah,
it on social media afterwards, and were like, "This was really inspirational to me." So you will have had impact for people in that room that Amanda had for you in having that conversation. So I hope that you acknowledge that. But in using your voice in that way and getting up and sharing your story, what's been the impact for you since?
I think certainly afterwards, that feel of ongoing community was massive, absolutely massive. I made so many connections through that, with people, like you said, saying how what I'd shared had really resonated. So for me, I felt part of the HR Big community in a way that I hadn't before. And it's what's really drawn me to keep coming back to HR Big. I mean, obviously, you do an amazing event, right? But the community you've created as well, and the sense of support. I've met so many amazing, amazing women through that community. So that's been by far the biggest benefit for me, those ongoing relationships.
Amazing. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And so we're 3 years down the line. Obviously, you shared what advice and wisdom you had at that time. If there was someone listening to this now and thinking, I know that this isn't what I want for the rest of my life. I know I want to be doing something different. What would you say to them now?
Alrighty. So a few things just to recap on what we've shared. Things like the taking action is huge. Even if it's a small step every single day, do that consistently and see how that compounds. If you kind of expect success in what you do, I think that really helps. It's a bit like that glass half empty, glass half full. If you kind of expect that you're going to be successful in something rather than expecting that you're going to fail, that focuses your brain differently, and you start to look for all of the opportunities for that to happen. There's loads of studies and research to back up. That's the kind of Pygmalion effect. You can see it happening everywhere. And I did have another one. I've completely forgotten it. One is write things down if your memory's shit.
That can help.
That can help enormously. Oh,
It'll
I
come
was
back to
going somewhere with that, and it was going to be profound, and it was going to be deep, and it was
I've
going to
got
be
no.
meaningful. Oh, yeah, it's come back.
There you go.
Focus on the things, that you can control and you can influence, and you can make a change, and just know when to walk away. Because, as I mentioned earlier, I do run programs for people on influence, and encouraging more of that influential behaviour, because we talked about people in HR who sometimes feel like they don't have a voice and they're stuck. So I do help, not HR specifically, I work inside organisations, typically with leaders, helping them to build their influence. But recognise you can only take that so far, because if the system is broken, if you've got the most senior leaders there who are acting in ways that are keeping people small, your efforts and your actions will only take you so far. So know when to walk away, because it's pointless just thinking, right, this is within my control or my influence, so I'm going to keep going and keep going and keep going. It will break you eventually.
You said
So
it was going to be
knowing
profound.
when to walk away is a big
Yeah.
one.
You're so right in that, and again, when the market's difficult and when you're not sure if you can get your next opportunity, it can be really hard to do that. But and what can also exist at the same time is, I think a lot of us think that we can change it, that it's our
Yeah.
duty to change it, that we should be able to, and then we start criticizing ourselves and saying, well, if I can't, then I'm obviously not good enough. That's definitely not true. The truth is that sometimes things just are outside of your influence and it's never going to change. And walking can be the thing that like protects you like the most. So you said it was going to be
Exactly.
profound. You were right.
I don't know
Like,
if it was that
come
profound
on.
after all, but yeah, it's
Amazing.
kind of a consistent story about trusting yourself, backing
Yeah.
yourself, questioning the way that you're thinking about things. What if there is another story? It keeps coming back to mindset, doesn't it? It's
Yes.
amazing the difference it makes, just the way that you're thinking about things. So that's kind of my big encouragement to everyone, no matter what it is that you're doing, think about your thinking. Is it helping you or is it getting in the way?
Amazing. I genuinely, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, and It would always be a pleasure, but thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, for coming back again, for giving us all your insights. I think you're amazing, and thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Cheers, Emma.
Now, let's make this mean something. There are so many things that I love about this conversation with Katy. One of the things that strikes me throughout everything that she says is her willingness to listen to her intuition and then take action in pursuit of the things that she knows are absolutely right for her. And that's one of the things that I think is just at the core of everything that I do within my own work. We can get so disconnected from what we really want from ourselves and who we really are. And it just becomes impossible for us to then take action. We're so caught up in the day-to-day, the to-do list, the managing our lives outside of work, how they interact with each other. And one of the best things that we can do when we're not feeling aligned, when something's feeling off, when we know that we're not quite happy, is actually just to create the space for ourselves, to listen to what is actually true for us and always has been true. So this week, as in every other week, I'm going to invite you to take some action and to reflect. And for this week, I'm going to suggest that you create some space for yourself. One of the hardest things for us to do, right? But really, really important if you are ever going to connect with what you really want for yourself. Now, this might simply be going for a walk outside and then just thinking, if I could be spending my time doing anything in the world, what would I be doing? What is my gut telling me? What is it that I know is true for me right now that I'm not giving space for because I'm so wrapped up in all the things that I think I should be doing? So take some time, take some space, and see what it brings up for you in terms of what you really know to be true for what you want for yourself, both now and in the future. And as ever, let me know how you get on. What comes from this reflective process? I really want to know. If you have enjoyed this episode, can I ask you a favour? Please could you interact, like, leave a review, share it with your friends, do whatever you can to help get this in front of other women in HR who might need to hear the stories that we're sharing. Thank you. I appreciate you.